Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of the Shed End podcast. I was about to say Backfall podcast there. This is a new podcast that we're starting out. Myself, my name is Alex, also known as AliG040803 on Twitter, also known as the guy that has a pure disdain for all things Adam Zimmerino. And next to me is Zizu Season 10, also known as my good friend James. We do have a third member here. Unfortunately, Josh couldn't be with us today. He is once again on holiday, on the piss most likely, and I think it's quite easy to see why given our recent results. But we've got a lot to talk about today, being our first episode. We're pretty much just going to cover everything that's gone on since the recent purchase of the club by Ross Pelligra and the Pelligra Group. So, James, we'll start it out with just your opinions on the whole Pelligra situation, man. Just the whole saga and everything. Just what are your thoughts?
Well, hopefully this mic picks up. This is going to be pretty raw, but that's how we do it here on the Shed End Potty. I think that the whole situation was a farce, to be honest, in terms of the sale process, and we're seeing that now with Newcastle, that the APL couldn't sell a lemonade on a hot day. I think it's pretty evident that these guys in Quartermentha were just incapable of running a process that was effective and ultimately timely, because there's no doubt that when Stadge was appointed, he would have been told, okay, not long after you've been appointed, there'd be owners in not long after you've been appointed, right? And that you could then strengthen the team for January. And then lo and behold, when we get the news that it's, Rob Bridge and John Nekic, I was like, number one, who are these guys? Number two, what's their plan for the club? How are they going to finance it, etc.? Do they have enough coin? Because the issue with a lot of Glory fans at the time, that I'm sure you and I were talking about, is that there needs to be a lot of investment. Because when Tony Sage, had the license taken off him, the club was not exactly in a good spot. Yeah. Right. We had shitloads of debt. The squad was depleted as hell, and it was a really, depressing kind of mood around the club. It was pretty tough to support the club during that time. Ross Pelligra, going to him, he was someone that was mentioned as a high-profile candidate for the next owner of the club. And I was like, well, he might be, a good fit. He's doing well with Catania. First season he was there, they won Serie D and got promoted, right? And they had a pretty big margin by which they won the league. So I thought, okay, maybe he knows what he's doing. So after that, Nekic Bridge deal went tits up. It's like, okay, well, we got to get someone, right? We got to get someone that, can come into the club and rescue things. Because at that point, when Nekic and Bridge, the deal collapsed, it was pretty tough. And it was like, surely not. Surely the APL and Quartermentha, these people that are professionals, Quartermentha, who deal with these sorts of processes all the time in other businesses, surely they would have done their due diligence correctly. Yep. Rather than, the last hurdle, do you guys have money to pay the, I think it was some sort of precondition, or some sort of upfront fee.
10 million.
10 million, or 10, 15 million or something like that. Yep. They hadn't paid it. So
they didn't have the money.
They didn't have the money,
which was crazy considering all the talk we got when they were announced. The brief, what was it, 2 or 3 days when we did have owners?
Yeah.
The whole situation of, we're planning on building a new centre of football. We're going to upgrade all the facilities.
No
and
recycling.
Like
no recycling.
Yeah. No recycling of players. W8 focus. We're like, shit, this is sick. Gonna get some big marquee players in, some Socceroos. We're going to be right back at the top. 2 days later, I'm down training my brother at Melville Synthetics, and I get a message on my phone saying, lad, have you seen this, with an article linking that the deal has fallen through because our owners realised, hey, shit, we kind of need money to invest in a football club that has tremendous amounts of debt.
The worst thing as well, that everyone jumped the gun. So they were announced as the new owners, and they were toured around, the Sam Kerr Football Centre, and there's all these news articles. I remember the video as well. It looked like a hostage situation.
Oh my god!
It looked like they had a gun pointed
to them. Just the video set up, just Rob Bridge just looking down the camera, it's just like
staring into your soul, looking like he was about to be shot by some terrorists off camera.
To be purchasing Perth Glory Football Club.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a great club.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then it's like, we then find out, okay, they don't have enough money. So then it's like, well, guys, we sort of need owners, you know, and you're wanting to expand with Auckland and Canberra and the NSD, yet you can't even get owners for 2 foundation clubs, one of which had a big reason in why the A-League was formed to begin with. So the fact that we've now got owners, the fact that we now have Ross Pelligra, it's very exciting. I mean, the disappointing thing was that we couldn't officially announce it earlier because I had a look on ASIC, right?
Yeah.
So that had all the news about the business, about Glory as a business and whatever. And if I'm not wrong, they were technically owners in early January.
Yeah.
And they just weren't officially announced until mid-Feb.
Yeah.
And I think everyone can remember that when Stadge had that press conference, I think it was leading into the Wellington game, and it was like, oh, did you have signings lined up? Because the APL said, no, you can't do any more signings. And Stadge was like, do you have any signings lined up? And he was like, yeah, I did. And then they were like, oh, have the plans gone now? And then he was like, yeah, they've gone. So now that we have Ross, that first game against Brisbane, he came in and dude looked like a Sopranos character. He had that sort of aura. He had that sort of.
You didn't help with the massive aura allegations when you were dropping all those fucking sneak peek videos of just plain Jane in the background, just him walking in.
Yeah.
Big Tony Soprano TikTok comps. That's been all over my TikTok. It's just nothing but Sopranos comps. That's the exact vibes I got.
Yeah. No. Well, he looks like a mafia boss.
He does.
He looks like a mafia boss, but he seems like a guy that's switched on, and he seems like a guy that knows his stuff. And you know, what was interesting is that before he was officially announced as our owner, he was in, I think, the UAE as a part of the racing group.
Yeah.
To complete a deal on their behalf, and he's a member of that group. So when we're talking about pathways for our young players to then go to Europe, go to South America, we couldn't ask for anything better. And the fact that we've got someone like Stadge, who's as well connected as he is, someone like Vince Grella, who's as well connected as he is, because he's an agent, right? He's someone that would know God knows how many people. And then now that we've got Stan Lazaridis as our director of football, who's literally been announced today, we should be seeing hopefully some very exciting times ahead for the club. Fingers crossed.
I think that's almost a perfect segue onto our next point. That is that today we did announce the new director of football. I think we all expected it to be Mark Bresciano, considering all the rumours we heard about his role in all the meetings with Ross in the city of Stirling, as well as the fact that he would be taking a back seat on sort of his role on the board of the APL.
Yeah.
But no, surprisingly, Stan Lazaridis, someone who we expected to maybe take more of the scouting department or maybe closer to the board, it looks like it's just completely flipped around, and now Stan is the new director of football. And we are yet to see what role Mark Bresciano will take up the club, if that is something that he's looking to do, or if he's more in just a consultancy role. But yeah, what do you think about the appointment of Stan? I mean, ex-Socceroo, a Perth boy, he's come through, he's had a great career, West Ham and Birmingham especially, a decorated career, decorated Socceroo. How important is it to have sort of someone of that pedigree sort of around the club?
Well, let's break it down, right? When Ross came to the club, he outlined a couple of points that he wanted to hit, right, as our new owner. And one of them was re-engaging with the community. And that involved dealing with the local clubs, right? Because it's no secret, you don't have to be rocket scientist to work it out. Glory don't have a good relationship with a lot of NPL or one of those older clubs from that older time period. So I think it's quite clear that, having someone like Stan at the club is going to be massive for us moving forward. He was an Olympic Kingsway player, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
He then, made the move to go over to Europe. He's played for the Socceroos. He's come back and obviously played for Perth Glory at the end of his career. So when we're talking about someone that's gone through the journey of being a professional footballer and then going on to that next step, that's exactly what we need for a team that has a lot of young players that are already in the team. And I think a lot of the young players that are coming through, because, I've been told that we've got, in terms of, I think the age bracket is under 14s to under 16s. That's like in the top 2 or 3 in the country.
Yeah.
For like the best group of players that are coming through. Fans can probably say quite easily, right? We've had Daniel Bennett come through, 17 years old. We've had Jaden Gorman get more chances this year.
Joel and Asmo as well.
Joel and Asmo. Trent Osler's had more time. Jacob Muir.
Majeka Dunme on the bench. Sukamoto just been introduced to the squad now, obviously. Cameron Cook.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah. So our future's in bright hands. And the hope with having Stan there is he can say, look, I've been there, I've done that. And the fact that he's, gone through the WA football system, where probably it's a little bit harder to make that jump from playing football in WA to then going all the way to England and being such a key player there, and also for the Socceroos. And he got into that, almost that golden generation Socceroos squad.
Yeah.
So we know obviously he's a great player. The flip side of it though is, can he do it as a board member or as part of the management team? Because there's Stan Lazaridis, the player, who was great for the Socceroos and for West Ham in particular. But then there's Stan Lazaridis, Director of Football, working with Alan Stajic, Alex Aparkas, signing players, building a team, helping the young guys out, and getting this club back to a level that it had back in the old NSL era, where it was arguably, let's not take the piss, it was one of the best clubs in Australia.
Absolutely.
So that's the challenge. But he spoke today. I thought he presented himself very well. I think, he said a lot of things with regard to looking at WA talent and making it a big focus, and then also having a good structure at the club for beyond his tenure at the club or Stage's tenure at the club or whatever. That's really important. So if, he can do a good job, then we're going to slowly build the right building blocks towards being that bigger club again, I feel.
Yeah. And there's definitely a lot of things that we have to improve on, even just outside recruitment and stuff like that. I think it's quite sort of obvious amongst most Glory fans about stuff like the deal we have with HBF Park, where we're shelling out, way too much money to be, essentially playing our home games. When you compare it to something like MacArthur, where they have their stadium rented out for $1 a season, which is absolutely crazy. So hopefully with Ross having a background in property development, obviously that will come with some connections. Are those connections sort of deep-rooted enough to be able to secure us better deals, or to work out sort of a better operation with Venues West? We'll have to wait and see, obviously. But it's exciting times. I'm glad we do have Ross specifically as the owner on board, and he's got a great group surrounding him with what he has at Catania already, and sort of what he's been able to build so far as the owner of the Glory. Can't quite remember what our next topic of discussion is.
I think it was on Western Sydney.
It is, okay. So, let's get into this. Now, one thing I will say, and I'm very, very thankful for this, the 2-1 MacArthur versus Brisbane game that was just before, I saw at least 4 people using that meme of me saying, hold that 2-1L, right? I didn't see a single person using it after that Western Sydney Wanderers games, and that just proves one thing, is that Western Sydney Wanderers fans are old and out of touch. You guys are useless. You can't even troll good. You can just threaten people, threaten to bash me, rip off my jersey, will you? You can't even do good trolling, boys. Come on, pick it up. No, but seriously, what a game, honestly. As a neutral, well, obviously I'm not a neutral, but if I was a neutral, that would have easily been probably one of the best games of the season. Like, even though it wasn't as high scoring as something like a 7-0,
It was tight.
it was very tight. The whole game, it was fiery, it was aggressive, tackles, cards, good shots, good chances, and just, look, I understand putting it down to inexperience maybe as to why we didn't win it. Obviously you had the chances that Benny and Gorman weren't able to put away, and Nasmo
Williams with the first half.
Williams, and then Anasmo, obviously, he had that really good move where he sent Marcelo back to the favelas. Just couldn't find the end product though, which was disappointing. But maybe that is an indication of age, and maybe that's sort of a focus that we have to put into recruitment next season. But I'd say a lot of good signs in that game, especially from how I saw it. James, did you see anything in particular?
Well, first of all, if I check the average starting 11 age,
here we go,
from the game rather.
You already have the stats man. Now you guys are get introduced to the stat man, right?
Yeah. So 2-1 loss. Okay. So Western Sydney's average age for their starting 11, 29.6. Our average age for our starting 11, 26.2.
And that's with David Williams.
That's with Dave Williams up top.
And Latchman as well.
Yeah, so they're carrying it up. So can you say it's down to inexperience? Yes and no. The slow starts killed us again. I spoke on 2 separate radio stations where I said, if we don't start hot and fast, I don't care what happens with Western Sydney in terms of their result against Melbourne City, we're going to get, in big trouble. Because I felt either way, they were going to be coming to Perth with a point to prove.
Yeah.
You can't get spanked by your biggest rival, Sydney FC, 4-1, and then lose to the Wooden Spooners, and then come to Perth, which is a tough trip, and then put in another bad performance. Because the pressure is already on them. Like, before the game, 10 years they hadn't won in Perth.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of that record, because you could go to a Western Sydney game and you could go, easy 3 points.
Yeah.
No worries. We could be really crap like we were in the Wooden Spoon season. We didn't lose to them.
Tricky Ricky Garcia.
No, that was actually Zatkovic.
Ruben Zatkovic.
Zatkovic, the one with Sturridge.
Yeah.
Assist as well for Bruno. That's a bit of a throwback.
It's just a shame you can't rebuild around an old player as well. It's just
Oh, you can't rebuild around 35-year-olds.
No. It's a darn shame.
Can't do that, no.
Let's ignore the fact that David Williams is,
36.
36.
36.
Yeah. 36.
But I think on the game, look, it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
both the weather and the sort of vibe around the game.
Yeah, I mean, I was sweating like a lamb on a spit. Because, we were sitting up in the East Stand, a bit of a kamikaze choice, unfortunately. I'll stick my hand up. I said, let's go sit up there. And, it wasn't exactly pleasant viewing, nor was the first 30 minutes. I mean, that was rubbish. And I've not, I've tried not to be as harsh as I have been when it comes to my critiques of the team. But that was pathetic. That first 30 minutes was absolutely pathetic. You've got a team that had now been beaten 7-0 by Melbourne City. They would be low on confidence. They would have had to have flown then from Melbourne to Perth.
Yeah.
They should have been tired. We had all week to prepare. How you don't start the game with any level of intensity, aggression, confidence, desperation, because finals is on the line. And then it was like, Glory's still in bed. They must have had like a smiley mind session before the game started or something.
Yeah.
Like, feel the bubble rise through your stomach and all that. We were asleep, man. We couldn't compete. We had a team that had got flogged 7-0 start like they had to start. Western Sydney started like they had to win the game.
Yeah.
So, I put that on our blokes. We train in the heat. We should be used to it by now. We should be saying to teams, right, you're coming to Perth. We're desperate to win at home in front of our fans, that the squad has gone on record saying that they love playing in front of. Well, boys, that first 30 minutes, how do you explain that? That was shocking.
That first 30 honestly was painful. And what I don't understand particularly is that the first 5 minutes really it set a complete opposite tone. The first 5 minutes, we were getting in, Benny was taking on his man, Simmons was on a yellow card within the first minute.
Yeah.
Within the first minute, he was on a yellow card, and we were thinking, come on, lads, just get someone down that side, keep taking on your man, keep taking your man. I don't think I saw anyone take on Simmons for the rest of the game, maybe until Anasmo came on. And it's really disappointing because you have that sort of advantage over them, and you have that sort of bright start. It's like, yes, this is what we need. And then it was just a complete drop-off. We let them get way too into the game. I had people telling me that Sonny Kittel had a good game. I was like, mate, he was shit. We were just worse. Honestly. Kittel had it. Look, Kittel was fine.
You know what's worse? Milos Ninkovic looked very good in that first half in particular. Here's the thing. If I was Stadge, I'd be saying, you're letting a 39-year-old take the piss out of you guys in front of all your fans in a must-win game.
In the heat. After a 3-game belting.
That's the thing. And what they conceded, 7, and then they had the 3 against, and then the 14 in 3 games. And then you dish that out. I mean, that would have been a result that hurt. I mean, look, I appreciate the second half fight back to a point. Where's that from the first minute? Why aren't you going at players from the first minute?
Yeah.
That video that I shared in the Brisbane game, where late on in the game, Adam Taggart, G. Colley, swarmed Jay O'Shea, and the crowd just went up. We were there, it was loud, it was hectic. Yeah. That one moment, I was like, okay, brilliant. Do that again every game, every home game especially. I don't give a shit if it's wet,
hot, cold, windy, bad pitch, whatever. I want to see that every week.
Yeah,
Because the
of
players are capable of doing that. They are capable. So, I mean, look, the second half, look, it was better. We kept the ball more. We created some chances, but my God, we couldn't score in a brothel.
Oh, no.
Their finishing was shit ass. That is disgusting. I mean, like, look, young players, yeah, I know, but it's like, these are critical chances. These are critical chances. It's a learning experience for someone like Jaden Gorman, who I thought did very well otherwise.
Oh, no, he was great.
I was disappointed when Stadge said it full time. He didn't really praise him enough. I thought his response was a little bit... I could tell he was obviously pissed off.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen Stadge say, you know, I like what the young lad did when he came on. That was the most amount of minutes he's played.
That's the best we've seen from Gorman.
Best that we've seen him, right? Because he was taking on... He was fierce. He was ferocious.
Yeah.
He didn't give a crap. There was one moment, I think it was a header. The dude came running from the edge of the box, and then boom, he launched himself like a salmon out of water.
Yeah.
Boom, to try and attack it. Look, the header went for a corner, but he did enough to affect the play.
His form on his finishing is good as well. The form on the header was great.
Yeah.
It's just, obviously, it's a confidence thing. And look, I get the point that, and I've seen some people say this, especially about a striker like Darwin Nunez. It's like, you know, there's only so much that you can teach a professional striker to a point when it comes to something as basic as finishing. You know, like, yeah, you can teach them, like, you know, maybe, you know, use your body a bit different, maybe you can better their technique, but at a certain point, you just have to say, okay, finishing is just a bit shit.
Yeah.
But, like, even at that point, I think it was more down to just bad luck from Gorman, because he had at least 2 or 3 chances that were brilliant.
He got in the right areas.
By, not Lawrence, was it Lawrence? Yeah.
There was the open one that he missed when Benny did the tricky back heel, and that sent Marcelo for a hot dog.
Yeah.
And he was unlucky with that one. I mean, I've had those shots as well. I mean, I'm not a professional by any means, but you want to try to bend it either in the post or outside, and he cut across it, but he didn't get enough whip on it, and it just missed the post.
Yeah.
But he looked good though. That's the thing.
He looks like the sort of fox in a box striker that we've been looking for to replace Williams, especially.
Yeah.
Because especially with Taggart getting more involved in sort of dropping deeper in the build-up play and stuff like that, with what we are most likely looking for next season, which is a lot of creativity through that middle and through those wide areas, you need those sort of fox-in-the-box players, because I guarantee Taggart's going to be that guy that's sort of just dropping in and linking between the wingers and the midfield and just hitting those chances when he can. Because Taggart's clinical, yes, but he's also way too good on the ball for us to just sort of stick up there and just let sit there and wait for a chance. Gorman just strikes me as just a perfect player that can get involved when he needs to. But if he just matures a bit more, I feel like he can just be a crazy fox in the box.
Put it this way as well. Like, he's going to have Adam Taggart, who, I'm going to say it, there's no A-League striker that's got better movement in the penalty box than Adam Taggart. So if he's like a sponge and watches what both Taggart and Williams do in the box, when he gets more opportunities, which he will, he's going to score goals. But I think, again, just on the game, you know, we created chances, but, you know, I still feel that we're not creating chances that are of a level where you could see we were really good, and the team Western Sydney was under pressure because of how high value our chances were. For example, like XG, right?
We did win on XG.
We did win on XG, but this season, okay, we've scored 38 goals, which is, I think, in the top 4 in the league, but we're towards the bottom for actual XG.
Yeah.
So we're held clinical, except we just weren't clinical for this game, but we just don't create high value chances. We don't create chances where you're expecting to score.
Yeah.
And then we've fluffed up a lot of chances. I think we had, both teams had 4 big chances. I think we missed 3.
We missed 3.
Yeah.
The one we didn't miss was Taggart's goal.
Taggart's goal, yeah. So, a big learning curve. Look, I mean, the tough thing was towards the end of the game where it was Lockie Brook who got the winner, and it had been documented that Lockie Brook had some issues with Mr. USB. So that was a bit, you know, disappointing. And then seeing, obviously, the Wanderers fans, look, they came in decent numbers. Look, if they hadn't got flogged and were probably not protesting, I reckon there would have been more of a showing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you know, that was a tough game to accept. And seeing Stadge at full time, he looked like he was going to punch a wall. He looked like he was pissed off.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, threw it away. And it's like, I think once I cooled off, I think I left that game going, we got potential. I mean, when you have guys like Joel and Nasmo, who is quick, brave and can sit Marcelo and his mum like that, that was a great moment. We've got a lot of really good young players that are playing, but are also still going to come through. So I think the big question is, how do we nurture this talent that's coming through? What sort of experienced players can we bring in? Because I think that's the next point in terms of the rebuild. Can we bring in players that are of a high quality, high standard, and will take this team to the next level? Because then I think we'll give our young boys a much better environment for them to come in and not be put under ridiculous pressure to perform.
Absolutely. And look, if there's anyone in the current squad that I'd say, you've got to give David Williams a coaching role after he retires.
Yeah.
If he does retire at the end of the season, I hope he sticks around next year, honestly. But if he does retire at the end of the season, if you're not giving him a coaching role, I don't know what the Glory are doing. But that is seemingly a perfect segue into our next sort of subject, which is transfers. Now, it might be a bit early to sort of do this because we've still got 5 games left in the season, but what better way to kick off the first episode of the Shed End podcast with a lot of controversy, which you and I are both well accustomed to on Glory Twitter.
Yeah.
But especially me.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into it. A nice little transfer special. We won't go too in depth, especially for visa players and stuff like that. We'll maybe leave out specifics. Otherwise, we could do a transfer special for about an hour and a half on its own.
Yeah.
But let's just sort of go through players. Would we keep? Would we sort of loan out maybe, something like that? And then we'll get into players that we'd look to bring in. So first off, let's say with the goalkeepers, you got your 2 main ones. You got Ollie Sale and you got Cameron Cook. Personally, for me, I keep both. However, I know there's the possibility that Ollie Sale does go to the new Auckland team. I know he's flirted with the idea. They have signed Michael Wood, or allegedly have signed Michael Wood. But he doesn't strike me as the type of starting keeper they'd be looking for. Doesn't really strike me as a starting keeper, considering that his most recent level is around the J-League 2. So, if we were to lose Sale, I am comfortable with knowing that we'd most likely be able to bring in a good replacement, but I'd honestly rather keep him at this stage.
Yeah, I'd keep him. I think he's not proved me wrong, but with his performances, once he came back into the team, that was where we could see why Andy Keogh made such a big effort to bring him to the club on a 3-year deal. Myself and Josh, we went to a lot of the pre-season games, and one of the things that stood out was that Sale is really vocal in terms of the instructions that he gives his teammates, how he organises the back line, and his performances this season have been, especially in that second half, much better. And I think he's grown with more confidence. Yes, the goal that he conceded for the Borello header.
Yeah.
Look, spaghetti arms. But other than that, he's been very solid so far. I'd keep him. I'd keep Cameron Cook as well. I still stand by that we've got one of the best goalkeeping departments in the league. I know when I made that tweet, everyone went, Sale, he shit, you don't know anything, and I'm like, yeah, right. But as the season's not 10 games left, there's more time. But he's done well. I want more. I want more from him with his ability to keep the team in the game, make smart decisions on the ball, with his distribution especially, and just continue to build more confidence, because I think once he becomes more confident and backs himself, we're going to see a really strong backline. But, he's got a bit of work to do, but I like how he's gone about his business since he's come back into the team.
Yeah. One thing that I sort of saw, I don't remember who said this, but I remember seeing someone say that Cameron Cook would have been like an ideal keeper about 10 to 15 years ago. But now sort of that the modern game has come in, and it's a big sort of need for keepers to sort of be just as comfortable with the ball at their feet than they are with their hands. It almost feels like the game's sort of passing him by at times, especially when you look at his distribution at the back. When he receives the ball and you see him winding up to go long, you're like, okay, we've either lost possession or it's a fucking throw now. But I did see some promising signs, especially in Macedonia Park last season. Obviously, fantastic saver of the ball, as we know. Can't seem to catch it as often, and he does look a bit nervous at corners and set pieces at times, which has cost us on a few occasions.
He gets bullied.
He does.
I mean, I like Cameron Cook, but he gets bullied too much in the aerial contest. And when you got, for example, a big buffet like Marcelo going for a header, Cookie doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when, for example, that Western Sydney game when Sale came back in, a big presence. He didn't have to pull off ridiculous saves like Gianluigi Buffon, but he still was a presence.
Yeah.
And you need that from your goalkeeper. And I think Cookie can still be an important goalkeeper because I think he's made a number of ridiculous saves. Like you remember last season, HBF Park, West Sydney Wanderers. I've never seen a better goalkeeping performance at HBF Park than that.
When we were a goal down, not a goal down,
0-0.
Man down. Man down, red card,
0-0.
second minute from Jordan Nelson.
Dude, he was like a FIFA keeper.
Absolutely,
He kept saying everything. So he's got potential, but clearly if he wants to be a top keeper and a keeper that takes over Sale's spot or goes over to Europe, he needs to improve on his ball distribution and he needs to improve on his aerial game. Because there's potential, and that's an area that he has to work on.
There we go. So we'll move on to fullbacks next. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. So we only really have the three, but I'll chuck Sushnia in there just because he has been playing left back most of the season.
Yeah.
So Alexander Sushnia, Riley Warland, Josh Rawlins, and Johnny Katrumbas.
Yeah.
Now, Johnny Katrumbas I'm keeping, 100%. I think he's been, and this might be a bit controversial, I think he's been our best defender this season.
Nah, it's not controversial.
I think he's been absolutely
good.
I did get cooked for saying that he deserved a spot in the A-League All-Stars team, but in terms of right backs this season, he's been up there.
Okay. How many right backs have been better than Katrumbas? Like literally, how many been better?
In terms of recent form, Docker from
Whole season. Let's say whole season.
Whole season, no.
He's been
In terms of recent form,
Johnny's been at least a 7 out of 10.
Ryan Grant, you can make an argument, but
come on.
I don't want to make that
Pest
argument.
is gone.
And
sorry.
Josh Wisden has been below his level, which is sort of sad to
He's
see.
getting
Payne from Phoenix has been very good.
Yeah, he's been the best. He's been the best.
Him and Katrumbas have been the top two for me.
Yeah.
But anyways, A-League All-Stars beside.
Yeah.
Johnny Katrumbas I'm 100% keeping.
Yep.
Over to Josh Rawlins. Now, here's the thing. I see Josh get cooked a lot on social media. I don't think he's been that bad, all right? And that's outside of him scoring a goal on his return to the club. Should have gotten us a win, but we choked it at the end. But I think he's been... Look, I understand people saying he hasn't been fantastic defensively because he really hasn't, right? But if we are sort of looking next season to go towards maybe getting more productivity out of wing-backs and stuff like that, he could be a good option. Now, do I think we will re-sign him? No, I don't think we will, and I don't think it's smart, particularly for the direction that we're going to bring in a loan player, especially for next season when we're looking for a more sort of stable, permanent rebuild. If we did get him back in on a permanent deal, I would love it, but I don't think it will happen given that I doubt Utrecht will release him for free. I do hope that he goes back to Europe and sort of rebuilds his career, but I don't see us keeping him, nor do I think it would be smart to bring him back on a loan.
He's got a lot of work to do, mate.
Yeah.
I think when Joshy was first at the club, when he was in the men's team, the senior team, a lot of potential. His second season was very good. He's come back, and defensively he's been getting skinned almost every week. His positioning, for example, in the Newcastle game, was crap. And he has to take that on board now. I know he's 19.
Yeah.
But he's 19 years old with a bit of experience at a senior level.
With about 3 or 4 years of professional.
That's it. And the Newcastle game, he was not aware of the back post. He didn't deal with the back post situation very well for the Clayton Taylor goal. And the second one, he lost his man that made a run across him. I think it was Stamatolopoulos. He lost sight of him. So small details, he's just not performing as well as he can. But the beauty of him being 19, there's so much growth and development for him.
Of course.
Going forward, he's been massive. I think the work rate that he's had, the runs that he's made in behind, when Shush has been playing as well, have killed teams. I think against Brisbane, he was very solid. The amount of times that Rawlins was making a run and forcing Henry Hoare to drop back to be like an auxiliary defender almost.
Yeah.
And he made those runs in behind the blind side. They were perfect.
Even his switching against Western Sydney Wanderers was fantastic.
It was good.
It was so many good passes.
Yeah, but I think if we're going to look at his one-on-one defending, his positioning at times, at a cutthroat senior level, not very good. But in his defence, I don't think many of our defenders have exactly been that good defensively this season.
Not. So maybe it is that his better role would come sort of maybe as a wing back or more as a sort of centre back in a back three rather than a full back in that sort of sense. But
yeah,
I do see what you're saying with his one-on-one defending. It hasn't been great, but yeah. We'll move on to left backs though.
Oh Jesus.
Susnjar, big Serbian brute.
Yeah.
He has had a couple of iffy moments, given away a couple of penalties. Obviously got the red card earlier in the season as well. Personally, I keep him. I think he's done enough to warrant an extension at the club if he does sign. Obviously, he was only on a 1-year deal for this season, as were quite a few players.
Yeah.
But I would bring him back purely because in terms of left-footed centre-backs, now that it is confirmed that Alex Grant will be going to China, I don't really see many better Aussie options that we could realistically get. So for that sake, I would keep Susnjar.
Yeah.
Riley Warland is a tough one for me. Now, Riley's had some really good moments, particularly earlier in the season when he was sort of playing back up to Susnjar. Obviously got that assist in the game against the Mariners. Sorry, not the...
That was Mariners against Fatales.
Yeah. So... Look, he's had his moments. However, recently it just has not been good enough. His passing's not been great. His composure has just not been good. He is a good physical presence, but then there's just times where it just feels like it's hard to say. He just lacks something, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. But he just lacks something. And is that something enough for me to say he doesn't warrant a spot in the squad? I don't know if it is. If we were thinking of playing a similar system next season, as to if we want to play, more defensive-minded centre-backs out at fullback, I would keep him as a depth option. But if we are changing up the system, I wouldn't be surprised to see him make a return to the NPL. Maybe that could be good for him if he wants to sort of kickstart his career and sort of earn his way back into the team. I wouldn't mind seeing him as a depth option because I do think he provides certain bits of quality at times, but it's just the consistency. It hasn't been there.
I think first of all on Shush, with Shush, there's no brain farts, there's brain shits.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's just let himself down with poor moments of discipline. But I think he gets a bit of stick on Twitter, or at least from some of the comments.
He gets
a bit of stick, and I'm like, well. He's pretty good one-on-one. He's a beast in the air. He's aggressive, which I like. And you need that with your centre-back. You need one that's a total bastard, but Shush isn't just a total bastard. He's decent on the ball. People forget that at times. He's played some pretty good passes, and
evident by the fact that Stadge has trusted him for the majority of the season, playing out at fucking wing back.
And he's done that well. And he's got a decent recovery speed as well. Oh, I'd keep him. I think. With a certain partner next to him, he could do really well. I think also in terms of showing our young guys that, look, Susnjar, I'm pretty sure he came through he had some games in our academy, went to Perth Italia, then went overseas, played in Europe and Asia, I'm pretty sure, played for the Socceroos, and now he's come back. That should be the sort of trajectory that our young guys, like your Luke Bibbs, your Majekadunmis, your Mewers, right, that should be what they should be looking for. And having someone like Shush who's made it, that would be a good role model for them. On Riley Warland, what I'll say is, before I say what I think of how he's gone this season, I'd give him another go next season because I think he should have a second chance because I think he's young enough to and probably mature enough now to learn what's worked this season with his game and what hasn't. His performances have been, I would say, for the most part, well, it depends what you're expecting. What are we expecting from someone that's come in under the circumstances that we were when he came in? He was with Perth Red Star, and he's mostly played NPL.
Yeah.
This might have been a year where he transitions into learning properly the A-League level, because this is probably the most amount of games he's had in A-League season.
Oh, no, absolutely, yeah.
So, look, he's learning, he's got to grow. In saying that, there are attributes of his game where I poo my pants. Every time there's a long ball towards him, I crap myself because he cannot deal with a long ball. But then again, a lot of our young guys struggle to deal with that long ball over the top. How do we position ourselves? How do we deal with it? What's the best action?
Ironically, every time we see him lining up to hit a long ball, we also crap ourselves.
Because he just lacks a bit. He just sometimes switches off.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing a couple of times some of our senior players just switch on him. Like they just went at him and just berated him.
Yeah.
I think he still has a little bit of upside. I think there are elements of his game that, with more time, with maybe more development, there could be something there. Because let's not forget, he did make the jump from Perth Academy, our academy, to Fulham.
Yeah.
Now, Fulham's not going to take someone that's shit. That's from Australia, at least. I would think. So, I believe there is potential, but I believe he needs to show the coaching staff and the new ownership model, I deserve another chance. Otherwise, unfortunately for him, it could be back to the NPL. I hope not, because he gets a lot of stick. Some of it is fair, some of it isn't. But I'd give him another chance. I think there's if he can have some time to learn, have a really strong pre-season, and be there for the whole pre-season, he might be okay for us.
All right, so we'll move on to, just quickly, let's get this out the way. The two players that we have out on loan right now, Salim Khalifi, Aaron McInnes, get rid of both. I'm quite comfortable to say that both. I want them out the club.
I'll probably be a bit more elaborate with my assessment of them rather than just going shit quick sell. I think no. But I think
on transfer list.
Okay, right. So I think McInnes came in 3-year deal, good age bracket, apparently had good references. I didn't see anything last season. I didn't really see
the odd
anything.
clutch goal here and there.
Look, the clutch goal against Western Sydney, beautiful. Mariners as well. Other than that, as a midfielder, where there's a fair bit of responsibility on him, no thanks. Khalifi, he bailed. He bailed when we were at our worst moment.
No, but in fairness, I don't think that was up to him.
I don't know.
To be fair, we don't have the details, so I don't want to speculate. But
I don't know. I'll just say I don't know. I mean, look, the fact that he left, the fact that his performances haven't really been, when you're a visa winger, you need to show that you're a visa winger, that you're a really good player. He's played in Germany, he's played in Switzerland, he's had a relatively decent career. I'm pretty sure he's played for the national team.
He has, yes.
He has. So, where's that been for us? People see one or two stepovers and go, oh my God, it's Castro again.
Yeah.
Because we've been starved of talent.
Sturridge stepovers.
The bloke does 6 stepovers, and now we think, oh Jesus, Johnny Warren medal time. But no, I think Khalifi, no thanks. And McInnes, look, thank you for your service, boys, but this is a new era now. We need to bring in players that can be consistent and have a clear impact on the team every week, especially if they're a visa player.
And with that, let's go over the other visas in the squad. Mark Beavers and Daryl Latchman, two guys that are certainly getting on in age. I think we can all agree. Both of them are 34.
Yep.
But do they hold enough value to the team for you to keep around? Now, I'll go first here. Now, I'll first say Daryl Latchman's been an incredible servant to the club.
Oh, hell yeah.
Incredible servant. He's been here for 5 years. Joined just after we were out of our golden era, and he's been here. The amount of new centre-back partners we brought in for him, Vutric.
No, he didn't get to play with Vutric.
No, he didn't.
It was Aspro.
It was Aspro.
Lane
Yep.
for two games.
Yep. Camp, Elsie,
Muir.
Yep.
And then obviously Mark Beavers.
Yep. Look, he's been an incredible servant to the club, and while there are times where he does show his sort of the fact that he's still maybe got that little spark, that little bit left in him, I don't think it's in the best interest of the club to keep him around. Now, I do know that he wants to sign a new deal, from what we've heard in the reports, that he does want to sign a new deal. Whether he gets it or not is a completely different question, though. And if I'm being honest, if I were Ross Pelligra handing out these new deals, I don't think Latchman would be getting anything in the mailbox from me, apart from a postcard and a nice box of chocolates that says "Thank you for your service." Maybe a nice little flower and a medal of some sort, a nice little team photo with a signature on it. But look, especially there was one case in the Western Sydney Wanderers games that did piss me off a bit. It was when he lost I believe he lost Borello for the corner, was it, or was it no, it was the first goal. Right?
The first one he might have lost Borello, but the second one he was too slow to come out.
Sorry, yes, too slow to come out for the second one. I just think he's showing his age a bit too much. He's slowing down. While he does have these good dribbling runs that he goes on,
or the long ball that he plays to
the long ball, yeah, absolutely. I just think it's better if we sort of move on while we're ahead. Now, I do think that he'll want to keep playing. I would say offer him a coaching role 100% if he wants it. He's been a great servant to the club, and I would love to have him in a coaching role because he's become a bit of a cult hero at the Glory.
I wouldn't give him a contract. I would give him a coaching role.
Yeah.
I think his performances after he won the MGP have dropped, and I think last season it was pretty how you going. This season a little bit better, but still not at the level where we're talking about long-term growth. We're talking about we need to play a high line. We need to evolve our brand of football.
With a 34-year-old.
With a 34-year-old that...
Look, if this was a 28, 29-year-old centre-back, I'd take him a new contract.
Yeah, but the issue is with Daz as well. Stage wants to play up-tempo. He wants to play quick. He wants not too many touches. He wants ball. He wants it in there. He wants it in the front third. He wants to cause chaos.
Yeah.
Latchman takes too many touches. Now, is that a product of the system where players are a bit slow to move around? Maybe. But I think it's sometimes fans get frustrated because he just doesn't get the ball off quickly enough. And sometimes with his defensive actions, the Wanderers one, where he was slow to get out, like that attention to detail just wasn't there. So I definitely would offer him a coaching role. When I spoke to him as being a part of a Instagram fan page, he did mention that he wanted to coach young kids. I think he's 16 years old or 17 years old. And I think he'd be good at that because if you listen to that interview that Majex had on the Hour of Glory, he said, I think it was Latchman he was talking about. Latchman's given him some great advice in terms of build-up play. So I think Latchman would be better suited to coaching. I would be more inclined to give Latchman a coaching role than perhaps maybe Mark Beavers. I think, look, I have a lot of respect for Beavers with how consistent he was last season. But I think with Latchman, he's been with us for so long.
Yeah.
I want to reward his service for the club because he stuck with us when we won the Spoon and he extended his contract. So the fact that he did that in that time, I want to keep him.
This was without us giving him the captaincy as well.
Yeah, so I would keep him, but only on a coaching capacity. I think in terms of playing in a team that wants to be aggressive, that wants to press, that wants to be quite intense, that wants to play fast, that's able to move the lines up quickly. I just don't think Daz can do that consistently, at least talking for next season where he'd be, turning 35. Yeah, well, he's 34 now, going to be 35. His birthday's in November. He'd be 35 next season.
Yeah. Mark Beavers, on the other hand, for me, look, I love Mark Beavers, right? He's one of my brother's favourite Glory players. I think it's more maybe the the fact that he's sort of this big British fucking hard bastard.
He's a Brexit defender.
Oh, he absolutely is, and I think the Glory faithful love him for it.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't keep him. He has been good for us. Don't get me wrong. His performances last season were fantastic. I think he was easily one of our best players last season.
Yeah, definitely.
However, it's just the injury problems, man. The age sort of profile. I think we need to move on from it. And look, he's had some bad injuries this season. I don't think it's a smart idea to keep him around. I would also offer him a coaching position, just because I think that he is sort of one of those players where you look at some young guys like, Adriano Labib or, even some of the younger guys coming through the academy, learning from the likes of Latchman and Beavers would be absolutely valuable.
Yeah, I think Beavers is a little bit like Latchman. So while Latchman has been a bit slow to get out, for example, with defensive lines pushing up, I'm pretty sure there was a game where Beavers gave away 2 penalties or 2.
Oh, no, yeah.
Was it Newcastle?
There was 2 handballs.
Yeah, come on.
See, in the case of Latchman, I feel it's sort of just you can see the age catching up to him.
Yeah.
With Beavers, I think it's just the change of system. You can see that he just really doesn't fit the system. Because last season with that back four, with the recovery pace that we had,
the low block as well,
the low block that we had, the recovery pace that we had from the fullbacks and everything, you can see from him. It's just like he really fits the system.
He had good penalty box defending as well.
Penalty box defending. Yeah. He was smart. He could get the ball out quick. No nonsense. Fucking no bullshit. Whatever. this season, when you're trying to play sort of progressive football and he's trying to play a bit more of a wide centre back role, it's just,
his passing has been
the
hectic.
pace was never really there. The passing wasn't really there either.
No.
The judgment at times was a bit poor. I would give him a coaching role, but as a player, I just can't justify it.
Because let's put it this way: if you had a centre-back pairing of Latchman and Beavers, and they were going up against some hectic, quick player, Bahaja, whoever it is, one long ball over the top, goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Beavers coaching role, Latchman coaching role. That's what I would do.
Let's discuss more the future of the club here.
Sure.
3 young centre backs: Majeka Dunmi, Andriano Labib, and Jacob Muir.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of selling players, me and you had this discussion with Josh not too long ago. Obviously, with the partnership with Catania, you have to look at sort of some players who you can maybe say send out to Italy. Now, obviously, with Serie B and Serie G regulations for transfers, you can't sign any players that don't have dual citizenship with the EU, I don't believe, or there's some sort of regulations behind it. So essentially, we can only really send them people with dual citizenship. Now, I do believe that out of those 3, Majeka Dunmi is the only one with dual citizenship. He is Australian and English. So let's just agree. We're keeping Labib and Majek at the club if it's up to us.
Yeah.
They are absolutely incredible future prospects for the club. Majeka Dunmi proved that with the fact that he should have had 2 goals by now, got absolutely robbed against the Jets.
Yeah.
And his performance against Western Sydney Wanderers was, apart from a few sort of maybe moments of inexperience, I think it was absolutely exemplary.
No, I thought it was solid. I like Majex. I think in terms of highly rated young guys that are coming through, he's very good. And I think Labib as well.
From what we've seen from the Ollie Roos as well.
Once he's matured a bit and once he has some game time, he's going to kill a lot of players. He is an absolute monster of a centre back, and I would keep them both. And I think, look, if we are going to, I would have loved to have sent maybe Labib on loan, because I think Majex is probably more ready to get into the team because he's had more opportunities, right? But I think if Labib, let's say, went to Catania, I think with the style of defending in Italy, albeit it's Serie chair that he'd be playing in, I think he would still suit it, because he does seem quite aggressive, and he can get stuck in.
Yeah.
I think that style would really help his game, and if he had that and then came back into the Glory team with that experience overseas in Italy, he'd be a great player even then.
It strikes me as a player that you'd really want to be getting a loan to like a second division club. Like
Oh hell yeah!
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
You get him a loan to something like maybe even not like a South Melbourne or something, but something just like I don't even know, like an Adelaide City or something.
Get him a loan.
Instill a style of football where they can really just get stuck in, get into challenges, but the coaching and the football that they're playing is modern enough to the point where he can keep up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's move on to Jacob Muir.
Yeah.
A bit more of a controversial one here, because purely. Now here's the thing, I'm a fan of Jacob Muir. I think he's good. I think he's had his moments of inexperience here and there, but I think he's a great backup option.
Yeah.
With that being said, if I'm thinking of next season and sort of what we're looking to build with the squad, what we're looking for with depth and everything like that, I think I would still keep him, but it's a lot more hard for me to justify it compared to the likes of Majex and Labib. Because the thing is, with Jacob especially, he just doesn't have that same wow factor for me that Majex and Labib have. And in all fairness, players don't need to have a wow factor. I think we can all agree.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Really?
I'll say his passing.
That is fair.
I'll say there was a couple of. If you remember MacArthur game, he played the ball to David Williams. Or to Taggart, who then flicked it on to Williams.
Yeah.
Muir played an aggressive line-breaking pass, and we don't have many centre-backs that have done a pass as good or similar this season.
So would you maybe play him in a sort of, if we were to play the back three that you and I have been talking about so often, would he more occupy that central centre-back role, or would that more be a sort of...
No, I think he's better on the outside.
So outside, maybe under Katrumbas on that right side?
Yeah, because I think as much as we take the piss out of Rubes was smart enough to have Muir on that outside, because Muir has a good range of passing.
Here's my only problem with that though. that is the exact role that I see Majeka Dumi taking up. That sort of depth option under Kachumbas out wide right centre back.
Okay.
With that, if we are playing a sort of back three next season where the central centre back is progressing a bit more and sort of linking up that gap between the back line and the midfield, I'd say perfect. You chuck him in there, you learn him under someone that we both agree on that we should sign, and we'll mention that a bit later. But is it worth keeping him to take Majek's spot? I don't know. If it comes down to it, and I have to choose either one of Majek's or Muir, I take Majek's.
Yeah,
But
I might take Majek's as well, just because I think Majek's is more already.
I would absolutely keep Muir as a depth option, but I would only keep him if he's the understudy for that central centre back role. Because purely for me, I think Majek's takes that right centre back understudy role, and Labib takes that left centre back understudy role.
I think what you get as well is you get good competition.
Oh no, absolutely.
Like, in terms of us young centre backs that are coming through, I'm very comfortable with what we've got.
Absolutely, but I almost feel like it's better to have these young guys competing with the older guys rather than pitting these sort of young guys against each other.
Yeah.
Like the sort of situation I don't want to see is if we have a situation where we have so much, like young talent to the point where they're constantly sort of trying to beat each other out for positions, but they're not really able to challenge these older guys. Because you stick with the older guys, they're not really getting their chances because we're moving them around too much and stuff like that. Muir, I think we should keep, but only if we can accommodate Majek's getting at least 15, 20 appearances next season. And if we do get the extended league season, at least 20.
I reckon next season will be a great chance for one of those young boys to step in and cement themselves. I think if we sign who we may sign, we don't know, but I think there's a great chance for one of those young guys, whoever can do it, to take their chance and establish themselves and maybe even bench a senior player.
Yeah,
that would be something that I would love if we can do that.
All right, well, with that, let's move on to the midfield. I think we've been on goalkeepers and defenders for about half an hour now. We'll move on a bit quicker. We'll try and power through this a bit.
There's less
now,
midfielders
obviously,
as well.
My heart breaks at this suggestion that I'm about to say right now.
What? Come on.
Lukey Bodnar. Oh, my God.
Luke, yeah.
Luke Bodnar is easily one of my favourite Glory players that I've had the pleasure of watching over the years. I think he's an absolute class midfielder. I think he's easily one of the best defensive-minded midfielders we've had at the club for a while now.
Yeah.
With that being said, for the betterment of his career, I think he has to leave.
Yeah.
Now, as much as that breaks my soul to admit that, I don't want to see a player like that go to waste.
No.
So I think Luke does have to leave. I don't want to speak much more on it, otherwise I might start breaking into tears.
I'll be brief. I think Luke's, when he was under Richie and Roots, there was a lot to like. I think with his profile as a 6, last season I felt he was really strong, really solid in that midfield. Pretty consistent at times as well. I was disappointed to not see him a lot during the pre-season. And I was a little bit confused why Stadge doesn't rate him. On the basis of Luke's performances this season, I haven't been impressed. But I also believe, are you going to expect a lot from a number 6 that's reasonably talented after giving him 10 minutes off the bench or 15 minutes?
Like 4 or 5 games.
For 4 or 5, at number 6, it's almost like a number 10. They have to be there the whole game and get consistent games to get a feel for it and build a rhythm.
Yeah.
And get used to the players that we have. I just don't think Luke's been rated in that area.
It's almost that philosophy, because I especially have this with my junior coaching, is that when you're trying to shut down a game, when you're trying to get your players to sort of get into a game, the 2 positions that you don't fuck around with are a DM and a centre back.
Yeah.
Because those positions especially, you need to get into the game.
Exactly.
It takes a while to sort of get into it. That's why you see him have slow starts sometimes.
Yeah.
So with Luke Bodnar, I can understand his poor performances. Like I said, not happy that he's most likely going to go.
He's probably going to go. Let's be honest. I mean, I can't see him, if we make the signings that we might do, I can't see him breaking into the team.
Exactly. Let's move on to more centre midfield options here.
Yeah.
Now, I will include Antonis Martis in this.
Yep.
And I will just say briefly, had a good preseason. I'll
vouch for that.
Yep, he had a very good preseason from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Obviously, the ACL injury before the season wasn't great. Now, a lot of people,
bugger, yeah.
a lot of people are saying, do you keep him? Do you sort of cut your losses with him, considering it's a 1-year deal? I don't think there's many losses to cut, and honestly, I would give him a chance next season. I'll build back his fitness with the NPL season that's going on right now, and once the next season comes around, I would hope to chuck him more in that sort of hybrid 6 and 8 role. That would be sort of my spot for him.
He's good. Look, I was there for a lot of the preseason games. I was impressed. I said he should be given a contract. And to have as well, let's say we have Antonis Martis and G. Coley as our 2 young central midfielders that are in that 23-24 age bracket that have growth and are doing reasonably well. I'd be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I think Antonis deserves another gig. And now that I've said his name, we may as well move on to G. Coley.
Can we do Musti and Mooney first? I'm not ready for
We can do Mugger, yeah.
Musti, Okay, Musti's a tough one here.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Glory fans love Musti. He's pretty much the embodiment of the club at the moment.
Yeah.
However,
Jeez.
I don't think he can start anymore. The reason I say that is not because he's not a good footballer. I think he's great. I think he offers a lot of sort of passion that you really need to instill within this sort of side.
Good leader.
I think he's a great leader on and off the field. He's a great sort of spokesperson for the club. But it's just the fitness issues, man. There's the recurring injuries. It's hard to justify. Now, he is on a 3-year deal. Personally, he's got 1 year left after this. I would keep him, but I would hope that he would be willing to possibly drop his wage demands. I would be happy to accommodate him at the club. I don't think it will happen because this is football and it's a business and everything, but I would keep him for this season. I would keep him for this season purely as a backup and as a locker room leader, since we're trying to transition from the current mob to the future that we're looking to build. I think we do need to keep some resemblance of the past there, and I think Musti for next season could be sort of that guy that helps us transition from this stage to the next.
I think number one, Musti will be a great influence in the dressing room, and then to keep those good senior players there that are those people that can lead the team, provide a sense of composure and experience. I think you need to keep him. I don't think it's right to comment on his wage. I don't know how much he's on, and I'm not going to say whether he should have an increase or a decrease because I don't know. But I think his role should. I wouldn't really want to start him next season because he's not reliable from a fitness perspective. I mean, you're wanting to start someone that's only started 7 games this season, and I know he had that back problem at 7 games, and he had a nasty cramp against the Wanderers. You need someone that's going to be in there and playing starting well over 20 games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For a season that we're going to have, for the amount of importance that Stage puts on the midfield and building cohesion and chemistry within the team, because he doesn't rotate that central midfield too often unless he needs to. He tried to build that partnership with G and Musti.
And G and Boz as well.
And G and Bzanic, yeah. I think Musti's got some great talents, good abilities about him rather. Some of his defensive, he's very tenacious, and he's a bit of a pit bull.
Yeah.
But sometimes he's a bit of a skitsed up pit bull that just jumps and then leaves space and lacks a little bit of discipline at times.
He strikes me as sort of like a David Williams type of player for next season. Someone who's not necessarily starting games.
But when you need him, he'll be
But
an
when
impact.
they need him, they're on the pitch.
Yeah.
When you need that extra bit of bite in the midfield, Musti is there.
He's there, and
He's getting subbed
he's
on
a
like
pest.
65th, 70th minute, and he's going.
Because I remember when he came on for the Melbourne City game where we lost 2-1, he changed the game. He changed
absolutely,
the midfield.
yeah.
So definitely got to keep him. I'd extend his contract.
Yep.
But I think the bigger priority is signing 2 really good central midfielders, having the competition with he and G. Coley and Antonis Martis. Get the competition going, get that depth, because our depth this season went like that, just went, and players need rests for the demands that Stage puts on them. And but I think Musti, he's still got a role to play. I just don't think it'll be as big next season.
Now that we've mentioned his name about 5 or 6 times, we will get onto it. Josh would, oh man. Honestly, it's a good thing Josh isn't here, otherwise we might have been cancelled on the first episode. Now, I will make a small mention of Jalen Pearman. Obviously signed his pro deal alongside Denny. Lots of potential. Started in the NPL team's first game of the weekend against Inglewood. They won 1-0. I was keeping an eye on him and Sebastian Despotovsky. Lots to like.
That said?
Yes.
Told you.
Lots to like.
Told you.
Fun fact about Seb, he actually scored. He only scored 1 goal against me. I played him in the Australia Cup last year, right? playing for Gosnells.
Scored against me. I don't want him in
No,
the
no,
team.
no, no, no. I saved about 3 of his shots, one of which was a 1v1, so I don't want to hear it, alright? I don't want to hear
He's a
it.
good player, though. So.
Give me that contract. Give me a contract, Ross. Come on. But no, there's a lot coming out of the youth teams. But I will just sort of say with Jalen, quality player, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do and sort of what he can learn under a marquee 10 if we finally get one.
Or just a marquee 8 even.
Just marquee anything, man, please. But let's move on to Gio Colli. Where do we start with Gio Colli? Okay.
I'll start.
I think he's had more hair colours than goals and assists this season.
Oh.
But aside from that, he is one of the most hit or miss players in this squad.
Yeah.
Because when he hits, he hits. When he misses, oh Lord, does he miss. Oh my God. Let's just start with the Wanderers game, alright? And this is why I will never trust FOTMOB ratings. He was easily one of the most ineffective and inoffensive players on that park.
He had the second highest rating on the West player ratings as well.
Because he got an assist for Taggart's goal. And mind you, nice assist. I like the composure. However, the rest of the game, he did nothing. And we've said this the whole season. Gio Colli is not a 10. He's not a 10, he's an 8. He cannot be trusted to solely carry the weight of the team's creative burdens. It just can't happen. Look, he had a couple of nice games last season, I will admit, playing in a more advanced role, but you've got cover behind you at that point. I think he just has too much on his plate when he's playing that sort of system in a 2-man midfield, that more advanced role.
G is not a midfielder that plays in a double pivot.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that experiment was tried under Richie, tried under Rubes. It doesn't work. He's a player that I believe needs freedom and cannot be tasked with the defensive side of the game where it comes to making those sprints, because sometimes he finds himself up high and then he's running back and he looks gassed.
Yeah.
I think with G, look, he's the player that I've tossed and turned over a lot in terms of the squad, because there have been games where I've gone, he looks a lot better now. But then there have been games where I go, what the hell are you doing there? I think the Wanderers won. Discipline, experience, composure. I just think he lacked that a bit in a few occasions. I think there was one moment where Adam Taggart did that great move against Hendricks, and then there's a video that got released later of Roos just crapping himself on the bench and going, "What the back?" And then Tags, he found G, who made a late run, but G just went for the hero shot rather than having that ability, that X factor, to play a slide rule pass to Steph Kolakowski. The composure, yeah. And I just think, look, he's 24. He's played over 50 games in the A-League. I want more from G, and I think people either think he's really good or he's not good. I think he gets criticised unfairly at times. I think people have slagged him unfairly at times, and I've just gone, no, he was decent. I don't think he...
That's the thing, though, is that has he reached a level this season higher than just decent?
Once against MacArthur.
Yeah,
once against MacArthur, when in that home game against MacArthur, I thought he was phenomenal. Some of his long ball switches, his link-up play around the box. It validated to me that he's not a double pivot midfielder. G can play a long ball, but it's a long ball that's like, yeah, how you going? Anyone can play that switch. Yeah. It's not like a long ball where you go, oh my God, that's just totally taken out their back line. He's a player that I believe would show more X factor with a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, earlier on in the season, I was cracking the shits a little bit with Stadge in his system. I don't think G is a player that can dictate a game of football. I think G is a player that would probably work better. I disagree. I think he's more of a 10. I think he'd work better with our inside forwards and the strikers and the fullbacks and linking up with them, because that MacArthur game, I'm holding on to that.
Okay.
But I think as well...
I'm holding on to the Adelaide performance from last season.
That one as well, and the Mariners one last season.
The Mariners one as well.
But what's the common denominator? In that Mariners game,
more advanced role.
He was in a more advanced role. He's not a deeper player. I don't believe he's a deeper player. You need... if you're going to play with a double pivot, if Stadge wants to play with a double pivot, play two really good central midfielders. And that's not G. Colli or Mustiamini.
They don't like. I mean, maybe Musty,
Maybe listed.
but you need our midfield. Our midfield is so out of whack. It is not balanced. Mark Bresciano would be watching us play, and he'd be watching our midfield, and he would be going, right, where's the bleach? I want to down it. This is shit. This is terrible.
Can someone please just get all of our midfielders together in a nice just room, sat in front of a projector, and just get up a full just compilation of everything Mark Bresciano did at Palermo?
Yeah.
Like, please.
That's it. Because
Please, that's all I ask for.
Our midfield has been one of our worst areas this season. Probably been a big reason why we haven't controlled games. We've leaked a lot of goals. G though has had a lot of responsibility. I don't think he's missed a game.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll give him a heck of a lot of credit.
His longevity's been very good.
His work rate's a little bit hit and miss, but I think he's tired. I think he's buggered. I think he needs a break. I would have loved to have seen him had a break and maybe Luke comes into the team. But, Stage doesn't want to play Luke. But at the same time, I think definitely keep G for next season. I think he's off contract. I'd keep him. I think this season has been at least somewhat consistent with his performances, but I want to see more. Because I need to see more X Factor. Because otherwise teams in Europe are going to go, nah, we don't want it. And that's the thing as well, if I'm another A-League club, what am I going to really see in him where I go, oh wow, I want one of that. I want him in my team. Because I think he has potential. The pre-season, I felt he had some good moments. But again, I need to see more. I think he's capable of more. And if he can do that, then he's going to go to that next level next season, I'm convinced.
Now, moving on to players that are tired, buggered, and need a break.
Yeah.
Now, Daniel Benny.
Yeah.
This is one that we've been talking about all season. Obviously, he was touted as sort of our next big thing, especially pre-season, scored against West Ham.
Oh, yeah.
From what I heard, was impressive in the games down in Bunbury.
He was.
Now, where do we start with Daniel Benny? Now, obviously, a lot of people will give him criticism because of his lack of goals and assists. And just at times,
What do people forget, Alex?
He's 17, people.
He's
Come on.
17.
He's 17 years of age.
17. I forget that as well.
He's 17 years of age.
It's ridiculous. I've not seen, don't take this weirdly, right? I've not seen many 17 players his age in the A-League that are as well developed from a physical standpoint as he.
I think people are too eager to compare him to other sort of teenagers that have broken through. So
he's not an Aaron Kunda.
Yeah, the likes of an Aaron Kunda or a Garen Qual. You've got to understand with guys like Aaron Kunda and Qual, players like that peak so early in their career just because of their physical prowess and just what it offers to their game. Just power, just pure agility, speed, and everything. While those players are great, I can see someone like a Daniel Benny sticking around this game until he's like 34, 35. He's sort of got that longevity about him.
Yeah.
He's got that little bit of extra quality. Now, do I think he's a phenomenal winger? Not yet. Obviously, he's 17.
Yeah, he's 17.
He doesn't really have any sort of those traits that you expect out of sort of one of those like breakthrough young wingers, like the pace, the agility, and that sort of confidence on the ball to just put your head down and just fucking go at opposition players. However, I do think he is very good, and I think he's got heaps of potential.
Yeah.
With that being said, obviously, I keep him. Obviously.
Yeah.
Next season, do you change up his role a bit? Do you maybe give him less starts? Do you maybe take the pressure off a bit? I think you do. I think you get a right winger in there, a much more sort of high-profile right winger, maybe someone who can impact games a slight bit more and sort of instill that confidence in him. Because Daniel, for me, has a lot of great versatility, whether that's at striker, left wing, right wing, and we even had talks about him possibly being a sort of...
10 almost.
Almost sort of like an inside 10 at some point. Which is a very fair point. He does fit the profile, especially the fact that his passing is quite good. He can beat a player one-on-one, we know that. And he's good at sort of slipping in between gaps.
Yeah.
I think he just lacks a bit of confidence, and I think he just needs the pressure taken off him just a little bit. So I would maybe say for next season, revert his role sort of more to a person who is a backup striker, backup winger, and a backup cam.
Yeah.
Just can fit in anywhere. Have him learn to become a bit of a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
I think with Daniel, look, when I was speaking with someone about young players that I should keep an eye on, the first name was Daniel Benny, the second name was Joel Anasmo. Daniel Benny, I saw some vision of him, was impressed. I saw his game against West Ham, I was impressed. I saw his game against MacArthur in the Cup, I was impressed.
There wasn't a lot to be impressed about at that game. That's my praise.
Those two, mate, those performances were bloody pathetic.
I think we already talked about this on your podcast.
We did, but
we'll move on.
But
Go check out Football Matters if you want to hear about that.
Yeah, that dead podcast. Every blue moon comes out. But Daniel is someone that I think just needs to be told, just go. Just unleash. Just go for it. Just give it a red hot crack. Don't be afraid to lose the ball. Run at your opponent. Give it a go. If you lose the ball, don't worry about it. Go at him again. And again, I think it's confidence. I just want to see, that's the thing. I want to see Daniel take on his opponent, build up a bit of speed and take him on. See what happens. Because I think something with Daniel as well, remember that West United game at Ballarat?
Yeah.
And he glided past 3 players.
Yeah, slipped in between.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just went through. He's got potential with his dribbling. I think with his passing, if he can get his passing to be more impactful and more effective. Like, do you remember he received the ball against Western Sydney off the left, and he played that beautiful ball over the top to Adam
I
Taggart.
remember that, yeah.
And then he also had that back heel to
The back heel
to
as
Gorman.
well. Yeah.
So he's got a bit about him.
He's got quality.
He's got quality. He needs time to develop. Again, he's 17. I'll stick my hand up. I forget that every now and again, and I go, he's not been very impactful today.
Yeah.
And you sometimes forget. Look, we're young fans. We forget it. But he's someone that once he hits 20, 21, 22, 23, look, if he can develop at a good trajectory, have good guidance around him, continue to learn from Stage, continue to learn from some of the Socceroos that we're going to have involved at our club, either that are playing or have formerly played, I think Daniel's future is away from Perth Glory and it's in Europe.
I absolutely agree.
I think he's someone that, if he can get a bit of acceleration about him, get a bit more confidence, don't be afraid to take on a player, be fearless, I think he'll be very good. I rate him. He's definitely one to watch.
And look, I almost feel for him at a certain stage because I genuinely feel like the club's put a lot of pressure on him.
Too much pressure
In all seriousness. And that's not just on the football pitch, just sort of outside of it. The way the club talks about him is sort of, you look at all the pre-season stuff that we were doing. After that goal against West Ham, my God, he was doing interviews. He was the poster boy for our whole pre-season campaign.
Yeah.
He's been the poster boy for pretty much everything. Kit drops, articles talking about the fans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Him, Taggart, and Musti are our poster boys.
And Collar.
And Collar as well, yeah. And David Williams to a certain extent. I just feel like it's too much pressure for him. But I'm hoping that next season he can sort of grow into it a bit more and we can do right by him in not putting so much pressure on
just
something
let him play, see what he can do.
But
give it a red hot crack. I mean, again, if he just feels confident, take on a player, have a crack. Don't be afraid to have a crack. I mean, look, have a shot and it goes in, sweet. Have a shot and it goes over the bar, I might go, you fucking bad. But I'll let it off because I want to see him try things. Give it a go.
Speaking of someone who runs at players, one of our most exciting prospects this season.
Is this Orgasmo?
It is actually Orgasmo.
It is Orgasmo.
That is a bit of a weird name that we have for a 19-year-old.
Blame Reddit. It's a bit of a festive place, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That's why I don't promote my podcast on there.
No, but
anyways, Jesus, where do we start with Joel and Asmo? I mean, aside from the debut goal, there's just so much to like about the guy. I mean, like, look, I feel a bit harsh doing all this critiquing on Benny and then sort of just,
but
so hard for Joel and Asmo, but he's been just so impressive.
Joel's 2 years older as well, just very quickly. Joel's 19, so he's had a bit more time.
And completely different build and completely different structure in the way he plays. I just love the confidence. And it's the confidence that I wish Danny would show a bit more.
Yeah.
But Joel just gets it. I don't know what it is. He gets on the ball. He sees a former international, and 2 years ago was playing in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe, Marcel. Like,
50-50.
Instead of getting nervous and looking for a pass, he gets into a 50-50 and puts him on his fucking ass with a nutmeg in front of a screaming Bay 136 and Chet.
And then Stage was just like,
that's
my boy.
That's my boy.
That's my boy.
I bought him up. Don't you forget it. No, but it just makes me wonder, like, what the hell was keeping him from getting a call up earlier? I genuinely...
He did his ankle.
Oh, sorry, yes, no. No, it was ACL, wasn't it?
No, it was his ankle.
It was his ankle.
Yeah. He was someone, look, like I said, Joel was one of the players that was mentioned to me. Joel is just someone that's got raw speed, raw power, and takes players on. I was going to write a piece on Joel if he was going to be fit, and I was at the start of the season saying that he could be our Geraint Qual.
Yeah.
I was going to say that because I felt that with some of his raw attributes, if he could just attack his opponent and just go and then grow more in confidence and have more appearances,
that he will be a top talent, and like Daniel, will have a future away from Perth Glory in Europe.
Unlike Garen Cole, I do hope he has enough quality to actually start games though, and that's one thing that I want to mention. That's one thing that I want to mention is that, especially with guys like Aaron Kunda and Qual, fantastic impact players, but then sort of just lose a bit of that once you start them.
Yeah.
But with Anasmo, I almost just sense a bit more of a maturity.
He's
from him on the
mature.
ball.
He's mature.
A bit more of a maturity from him on the ball. And I do hope that he starts. We've got 5 games left of the season at the time of recording this, and I hope it doesn't take me at least, we've got a week until the next game. So if it takes me more than a week to edit this, then flame me in the comments. Do what you want.
Yeah.
But he's just absolutely brilliant, and I hope he gets his chance. I think he will, and I'm very excited to see what's to come. Let's move on to, how many players we got left?
We got a couple.
We've got, let's quickly go through a couple. Let's just go through Bruce Kamau. Now,
Disappointing.
I didn't expect heaps from him, but I would have hoped for a little bit more.
Yeah, for a senior player that's played in Europe, that did well with Western Sydney, albeit for one season.
Yeah.
Disappointing break. Just not impactful enough. Not showing why he should be starting games, and in all honesty, that's also allowed someone like Daniel or maybe even Joel to start over here. I just disappointed from Bruce, which is a shame.
Yeah. So David Williams, we also discussed earlier. I think we've spoken enough on him. So
He's inevitable.
Inevitable. I say give him a 1-year extension. Just purely the same role he's played this season. Bring him on 70th, 65th, something like that, and just let him wreak havoc for the rest of the game. And then once he's done and ready to hang up the boots, I absolutely think you bring him in as a striking coach.
Get him also involved with the John Moriarty Foundation.
Absolutely.
For the Indigenous kids.
Absolutely, 100%. He's been a great activist for.
He's done great stuff there.
Absolutely is. So I'd love to see him at the club. Stefan Kolikovsky. Now, this is a bit of a weird one.
This is an interesting one.
So I know what some of your opinions on Steph are. First off, let's just go out and say he's had some great moments this season. He's had a lot of clutch moments.
He's
won some very valuable
very
points,
nice.
which haven't proved out to be that valuable, given that we're not making finals. But it's good to see a sort of example of what a player can do when they're sort of treated how he was under Zadkovic and sort of molded his way and worked his way back.
That's that takes a lot of balls to go through what he did under what Rubes
And
had
stick
him,
it out
and
as
stick
well.
it out, and then come back and then say, right, this is what I can do.
Now, he is off contract at the end of the season. Personally, I would love to see him extend.
Got to keep him.
Now, you absolutely have to keep him. We did have a discussion about his performance against Western Sydney Wanderers, one of the main points being that his work rate just wasn't that impressive. Now, I don't want to speculate because I don't know why that is. I don't know. Because normally his work rate's pretty good.
I'll elaborate on that because I was the one that said his work rate was pretty piss poor.
Yeah.
I think Steph is someone that is a player that's got a lot of talent. When we're talking about a guy that's come through Melbourne City's academy, they produce good players. He did well with City, he did well in Asia, he's a good player. Let's not get that wrong. Steph, however, for me, if he doesn't score or he doesn't assist, he's not impactful enough. And there have been instances this season where his work rate, he's very slow to get back once we lose the ball. He's like, I can understand if Taggart takes his time to get back. But bear in mind, Taggart's 30, Taggart's our best player. I don't care if he walks back. He's our best player. That bloke's always going to score a goal. I'd expect from Steph, though, to be busting his gut out all the time, to run back, help his teammates out, set a good example, set that pressing mentality that I'm convinced Stadge wants to have at the club.
Yeah.
I don't see enough combativeness from Steph. I want to see a bit more dog in him. I think he's got it. I just think he needs to show it more. Look, the MacArthur game, he squared up against Jake Holman. He's got a bit of fight about him.
Absolutely.
He's got a bit of fight. So, bro, show it.
Perth Glory this season have a couple of resident passion merchants, and we'll move on to one just after this. But Steph's got a bit, and he embodies the passion that we want. For the club and from the fans
He
to the
just
players.
needs to take that attitude of being a hungry dog and show it more, so that if he doesn't score again, his fans are going to go, this guy's a cult
I
hero.
want to see his
I wanna
role
see more.
next season. I want to see him be inverted off the left wing personally.
I still keep on top. I'm still keeping on top of tags because I think they've got a good understanding. But I think again, just call
Needs to
up
get
message,
more.
bro. Just go for it. Come on.
All right, we've already discussed Jaden Gorman earlier. I'll just say,
Great talent.
great talent. Keep him.
Yeah.
Absolutely, give him some minutes next season.
Yeah.
Now,
Doggy.
Doggy. Where do you start with Doggy?
Keep.
Absolutely keep. Look, here's the thing. I think we can both agree.
Yeah.
First half of the season, I think we were both on the Doggy out train.
beautiful.
Now, the reason behind that is just because he was a bit ineffective.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
Just a bit ineffective, and I just don't think he offered too much. And when you're thinking of sort of the players that we had coming through, obviously you've got your Bennies, your Anasmos, and Kolakovskis, you're thinking, just why does Coluccio get a start?
Yeah.
This last half of the season,
Right.
honestly, he's been one of my favourite
Yeah,
players.
Pitbull.
Absolute,
Right.
absolute dog.
Yeah.
And sorry, the game against Brisbane, when he came on at fullback, at right back, and he fucking murdered them.
He went. It was,
He
it
was
was a
battering
It was
them,
the
bro.
it was the equaliser for Tag's goal. And
Yeah.
He went. I think it was Keegan Jelicic that was on the board. Look, Keegan, come back to
Oh,
if you want, mate.
I'm
You're
missing
more than welcome.
You
But
still
it was-
haven't responded to my letters.
Yeah, but he went flying in, and he just went in like a bat out of hell, like he'd been slung out of a cannon, bro.
Yeah.
And he just went in, and then
I honestly pray. Look, and Jared strikes me as one of those guys that has a good relationship with any team he's played for. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
there's the whole.
he was
thing.
huge at Western Sydney.
The whole thing with the Western Sydney Wanderers
Yeah.
fans, like even he's on loan to us from them. They
Yeah.
still love him. He still, has a good relationship with
We
them.
saw him at the pub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I absolutely want him staying because he is an absolute gun. And maybe he's not that kind of guy that you start every week, but the
He's good for the dressing room.
passion he shows,
He's a utility.
the love that he shows for the fans as well. He's
Yeah.
proper geeing up his teammates in the crowd as well. His versatility as well.
That's massive.
Speaking of a man who's versatile that I just forgot, Trent Ostler, keeper.
Yeah, we've got to.
Versatility king.
We'll just quickly talk on him because so that we don't double too long. But Trent, versatile, does a job, very good.
Young,
keep
to
him.
improve.
Got to keep him.
Okay. Lastly, and most
Is this
certainly,
who I think it is?
yes, it is.
Okay.
Adam Taggart. Now you've got to keep him at the club. I don't
Yeah.
think you can justify not keeping him.
Yeah.
Just made an appearance from the Socceroos last night. Nothing to complain about. He's had a terrific season. Hopefully stays injury free next season. We're going to have a massive year, hopefully. So that's all there is for players. Now let's move on to our next subject.
Oh, hang on. There's one. There's one that you.
No, I don't think there is.
You sure?
Okay. So now,
Just quickly,
So what-
just quickly on Adam Taggart. What I
Yeah.
will say is that in the pre-season, the game against the Massos where he murdered them.
Yeah.
I went to that game with Josh. I went, this guy's going to score a lot of goals this
Yeah.
season. He's scored a lot of goals this season, more goals and assists in the A-League than anyone.
yeah,
Equal top scorer in the league, best striker in the A-League. Evolved as a leader as well.
yeah.
Brilliant influence. Keep him at the club. He's loving it. He's got a great relationship with Stad. I've loved his performances. He's been outstanding. I just want to see him continue that level. So, yeah.
So in terms of players that we bring in,
Yeah.
this is a highly debated subject.
Yeah,
Now,
easily.
obviously, you can say, "Oh, for every player you take out, you got to bring one in."
Yeah.
In terms of specific signings, I don't have many, but I do have a few.
Yeah.
A couple for me. Number one, mainly, and I know we both share this opinion. The club, especially Stan Lazaridis, in his announcement today, said they want to bring more Perth feel, Perth boys back to the squad.
There's
We
an
can't-
Armadale boy in
we can't think
Qatar.
of a better Perth boy to bring
Come
back.
on.
Trent Sainsbury, come back home, mate. I'm just frothing.
Hey.
I'm frothing at the mouth of the prospect of having
Yeah.
a Majex, Sainsbury, and Sushnell back for next season. Oh my
can you
God.
imagine the other A-League fans if we sign Trent? They're going to go, "Fuck,
Shit.
that's a good sign."
Melbourne City's just we let him train with us for
Well,
nothing.
but here's the thing. It fits as well because once he's done with us, he can go, sweet, I'm off to Armadale, improve the relationship with Glory and Armadale.
Yeah.
Club that's got a bit of history in obviously WA. Good club. Need to get those community clubs on board.
Yeah.
On and off the pitch, I think he'd be super. We've got to go sign him.
Absolutely. Another signing that I think we should be making. This is an absolute must for me.
Is this going to piss off Vanderberg?
I will get onto those. I will get onto the ones that will piss off Vanderbilt.
Alright.
I'm coming for you.
Love you, Matt.
You still don't follow me back on Twitter.
Hey?
Chris Economides. Now,
Oh, yeah.
I know this is a bit of a tough one for some Glory fans, especially because of his performances. I think he's still got so much quality left in him. I think he wants to come back to the Glory. I want him back desperately, and I think Popovich has used him wrong. I think Stad can get the best out of him.
I reckon there's no other coach in the league that could get something out of Chris Economides and Alan Stagg.
Absolutely.
I reckon Economides needs this move for his career.
Absolutely.
I think. Look, at Melbourne,
The prospect of having a front two of just Taggart with Gorman under him,
yeah,
and then a rotation between Kolakovsky and Economides.
yeah, that's sauce. And I think we've got to consider as well, right? With Chris, he's a player that needs confidence.
Oh,
If you look at if you take a look at his numbers, the amount of take-ons that he has, the ground duels that he wins and has in a game, they're a lot lower at Melbourne Victory than when he was at Glory.
Yeah.
Stadge, I would hope and I would believe, Stadge would just say, just go out there and have fun, go and take him on. Sort of that sort of idea where he just can take on a player and just feel free, just do it. I think he needs that. I reckon he would suit our system. I know people are going to look at his time at Melbourne Victory and go, "Ew, brother, ew,
brother, ew. What's that?
What's that?" But I think he'd be a great signing. I think he's got a point to prove, a massive point to prove to show that, hey, that was not the real Chris Economides. And look, if his form does improve, who knows? He could get back into the Socceroos squad. Never say never.
Up my time is now.
Never say never, because Taggart, how long was he out of the Socceroos squad for?
3 years.
Boom.
Something like that.
Came to glory, boom, back in the squad. So there you go.
Alrighty, we'll move on to some more signings. Now, I think those are two signings that we agree, both two Aussie signings, namesakes that we want to bring in.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, you have your visa signings that you want to bring in. Obviously, you can say visa 10,
Yep.
a visa defensive mid, I think is a big one, possibly a visa 8, and then maybe a visa right or left winger. But in terms of two name-on signings, those are it.
Yeah.
Obviously, with visas, you have room for interpretation because there's so many players, international players all over the world. We were going nuts about Ricardo Saponara.
Saponara as a marquee, if he comes.
If we got Saponara or Soriano,
Or Sansone.
give me Sansone, give me my money. I will buy every Glory kit with their name on the back just so I can get it signed, and I will frame it. I can't frame it here because it will fall off, but I will frame it somewhere.
And our mate as well. You know,
Marco Mancosu,
yeah,
absolute legend.
he needs to jump.
Get to the club. Get on the next boat.
Amico, come to the club. Come to the club.
Amico.
Come on. Amico.
Oh yeah, Amico. I think it's Amico.
No.
Amico, bro.
No, Amico. I know a little bit of Italian.
I was gonna say,
His brother doesn't have an Italian passport. Come on now.
But
Love you,
yeah,
Marco.
we love you too, Marco. Any of Marco or Roberto or just any of
I
those
reckon we're making a big signing.
The Italians do it different when it comes to teams, to be
Yeah.
honest. Okay, let's get on to sort of more of the depth, sort of maybe possibles that we bring in.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you Henry Hoare, another Perth boy.
Yep.
It does make sense. He is off contract with the Raw,
Yep.
and he has had a few games where he hasn't been starting.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd love to see it. I think he has some value that he can bring. However, it doesn't strike me as a sort of profile that we would look for.
I think. Put it this way: if we bring in two cracker wingers and then you add Chris, and then you've obviously got Benny and Asmo, I don't think Henry gets in.
I agree.
I mean, it's a good idea.
Which is, yeah. But one that I do really like the prospect of, but especially surrounding the Jet situation, which we were going to talk about on this episode, but quite frankly, it's running way too long.
Way too long, yeah.
I think it's at about probably I don't even know what it's at.
We've chewed your ears off for too long.
Yeah. Costa Grozos.
Yep.
He scored an absolute thunderfuck against us earlier in the season. But I've been an admirer of this man for a while now, and I think he'd be a great addition to the Glory midfield. Whether for depth, I'd say most likely for depth.
Yeah.
But if you bring him in as an 8, as a rotation 8 that you can put anywhere,
you get more quality.
And I think he's one of those guys where you can genuinely put anywhere in that midfield and he does a job.
You do a job.
So he's an ideal depth signing for me, a bit sort of like how we use like a Daniel Benny in attack.
Yeah.
I think we could use a Costa Grozos in midfield.
And let's not leave Newcastle. There's someone that we got to nab from there. I'm sorry, Matt. Look, I know I've said his name before, and I know you weren't very happy with it, mate. I love Lucas Moragas.
Especially with the news today that Alex goes back has signed a 1.5 year deal in Sweden. I believe it is.
Fuck you, Alex.
You're a great player, but
should have come to the
it's
Glory.
why. You could have joined Stadge's Tricky Purples.
Are we running with that tricky purple shit, are we?
Probably not. I gave up on that one. Tricky Ricky.
When Richie left, Missy Richie.
We missed you, Richie.
Yeah.
But we hope you're having fun selling houses.
But Moragas would be perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
For what Stadge wants.
If we were to implement wing backs next season, you need Moragas.
Put it this way. Who is he? Which team is he more likely to, number one, play for the Socceroos, and number two, make a move to Europe from, Newcastle or Glory?
Oh, Glory, 100%. Especially, and this is what a lot of people aren't sort of realising with the Glory, is that there's so much more benefit now with this move with the Pelligra Group.
Because
for players to come and join us because of the actual connections that we have in the club. Connections in Spain, America, Morocco.
Did I mention racing?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Racing Group, yeah.
Yeah, Racing Group, yeah.
Not only Italy through Catania.
Yeah.
But the Racing Group has clubs in America, Argentina, Spain, the USA.
Yeah, friggin' everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm reading a bit too much into that, but I think it's very mutually beneficial for players to join, and
So-
Lucas Moragas would be an absolute
Come to Perth, bro. Come to Cottesloe. Come see the beaches, mate. You know, link up with Adam Taggart.
Apparently, we do have a player joining us soon, from what Josh has said. I don't know if we can.
Probably just so that we don't get shot. But what I think we can say is that it's not a secret. Like any club, we have made pre-contract signings.
Yes.
Who they are, we don't know.
We
But
actually don't know.
We actually don't know.
actually have no clue.
We're not taking the piss. We don't know. But what I imagine, I think, to sort of close the signing part of it, I think that if the reported budget from what we've heard is what it is, which is it might be a higher budget than normal, good, because we need the investment. We need the players brought in. Stan Lazaridis talked about it today. You need to bring in players. We've lost a lot of players. You need quality. You need good players around these younger guys that are coming through, and that's the challenge for Stadge, Stan, Ross, etc. to sell the project so that we can say maybe to a younger or middle mature age kind of player, come to us. We are a club through our connections that will not only get you into the Socceroos but to Europe as well. That should be like, you know, again, I just think right now we would have so much pull when it comes to the Socceroos in terms of players getting there.
Yeah.
When it's like you got Lazaridis, Bresciano, Grella all saying, "Oi, put this boy in the team."
Yeah.
We should have a bit of pull in that regard, and then also hopefully moves overseas.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Fingers crossed, bro. But we got to wait and see, and hopefully, for all these times that we've talked about a hypothetical transfer window, where we've gone, let's sign this player, let's sign that player. I mean, I'm guilty of that.
With Oli Vazanik on a 6-month.
Well, I mean, like, what did I say last year? That one Borja Garcia from Girona, and then lo and behold, Oli Vazanik. I mean, Oli was a good signing.
Oli was good.
He was good, but at the same time, it's like, oh shit.
When you dream of Mancosu, Borja Garcia.
Oh, Marcus
Sap-
Bugger. I would have loved Matt Glory, but anyway. Yeah.
Alrighty, lads. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it, actually. So, a long way to go for the Perth Glory, definitely. But it's a long way to go with the Shed End podcast. Thank you guys very much for joining in with our first episode. Hopefully, Josh will be back next week.
Let us know your thoughts as well, because this was pretty.
Definitely.
This is definitely a very raw idea. We're
Off the cuff.
We're open to changes or to suggestions or whatever.
Yep.
Get on board with it. Let us know. I'll just say right now, there's a big vacuum. There's not a lot of opportunities for Australian football fans to get their voices out into the media and have their say in shit.
Absolutely.
RBTV, I credit you guys.
Also, credit to you guys for letting me use the. I didn't really say this publicly, but RBTV, massive thank you for letting me use the footage for.
You would have
seen on the Backfoot podcast the Australian racing video. Thank you guys so much.
I saw Malta and other Western Sydney fans, but there's a great football community that we've got here in Australia.
Shout out to Brock as well.
Shout out to Brock. We've got a lot of really good heads around the country, and what we hope with this podcast is that also, if it does well, like RBTV's has done, and for fuck's sake as well, those are two that off the top of my head, that it encourages more fans to, get on board with their club and create our own sort of ecosystem, a media ecosystem where we can fill up that void of a lack of football coverage and people can feel on board with their club.
Absolutely. Alrighty, well, I think that's the perfect place to leave it, like we said already. Thank you guys so much for joining in the first episode. We will be back very soon. And, catch you later.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.